Hello, people. How's it going? To answer the question, DEI, well, diversity, inclusivity, inclusion, and the equity. Yes, the equity. Make terrible writing. They make terrible stories. Just ask Rings of Not So Powerful and Acolyte and other shows that are crap. Look, the problem is when you try to do forced diversity, forced equity, forced inclusion, you create bad stories because you're trying to create something that doesn't naturally happen. Natural storytelling doesn't force these three these three and not nonsensical terms into a story. The Lord of the Rings, well, the Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I want to call it that. That's what it's called, but it's not. It's not Tolkien. None of it is Tolkien. The Acolyte was bad writing. The ideas might have been okay. I mean, the idea behind it might have been okay, all right. It might have even been a decent story if the writing wasn't so bad. The actors really can't be blamed. Well, up to a point, they can't be blamed. But it begins with the writing. Good storytelling begins with the writing. And if you're forcing diversity into plots that don't need it, just because it's the politically correct thing to do, you're not going to write anything worth reading or listening or watching on a YouTube channel or TV or a movie. If you're going to force diversity into something, because forced diversity causes people to kind of recoil. Natural diversity works. It always has. After a while, it's always worked. It's always done quite well. The meshing and the slow integration and the slow just melting pot idea of cultures creates natural diversity. Natural diversity exists. Is it always perfect? No, it's not. That's called human beings are what they are. I think inequity. I've never understood that term. To me, that means that there are some people who should be more equal than other people, and I'm sorry, it just sounds ridiculous. Inclusion. Anybody's welcome to join my YouTube channel. Anyone is welcome to be my friend. That's inclusion. Natural inclusion is treating other people how you want to be treated. Natural diversity is treating other people how you want to be treated. And the other word, I don't even like the equity term. Because one has been misused, it doesn't mean what people think it means. So I really want to just discuss diversity and inclusion, because I think the second term is pointless. I just don't think it's worth talking about as I talk about it. Diversity to me in writing is taking the natural elements, the natural environment, the natural flow of storytelling to introduce people, characters, events, whatever, of different cultures, different ethnic groups, different people, and making a story out of it. The problem with Hollywood and Netflix and Disney and the rest of the movie industry is that they're so obsessed with this minority concept, minority philosophy of we are going to force people to be diverse and equitous and inclusive to the point where all you're doing is basically dividing people. And you're writing terrible plots. And your writing is terrible because it's not about character. It's not about the story. It's not about the story. And it's not about story. It's about standing on a soapbox. It's about standing and saying, look at me, see how inclusive I am. Look how diverse I am. Look how equitous I am. Look how important I am. Well, you're not. You're boring. It's always been boring. I'm not going to watch Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power. Because it's not Lord of the Rings. It's fan fiction. It's very badly written fan fiction. Because none of the characters in Netflix's Lord of the Whatevers has nothing to do with the actual characters from Tolkien. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings was an epic. Was probably the greatest trilogy ever done, and they kept to the spirit of Tolkien. That is what made it so good. That's what made the writing so good. And the characters were done so well. It wasn't perfect, no story is. But I mean, I've watched some of the stuff on the Netflix, Lord of the Whatevers, and I'm sorry, but none of these people, they're all diversity hires. And they're all quota hires. And they're all badly written. They're not people. They're caricatures of people. They're tropes. They're not based on anything. Like natural diversity in Lord of the Rings, Tolkien's version, exists. It's everywhere. Sorry, thought somebody was home. Had to run to close my door if they were. Hopefully, I'm making this make sense. I am not impressed with a lot of the TV show, a lot of the Netflix shows, or the. I can spot a Mary Sue a mile away. I can spot bad writing a mile away. I can spot bad character development a mile away. And most of these characters, when it is the DEI nonsense, are so one-dimensional that they're flatter than paper. That's how one-dimensional they are. They are so flat they make paper look three-dimensional. I suppose technically they do. There's a surface. You get the idea. I mean, I like good writing. I would love to see some good writing, but Hollywood and Disney and Netflix and the rest of them aren't interested in writing good stories anymore. It's not about writing a good story anymore. I mean, the movies that they're churning out are terrible. They're boring. They're not. It's forced diversity that doesn't make any sense. It's equity that makes no sense. It's inclusiveness that makes no sense. It's to create this utopian worldview that doesn't exist in the actual, books that it was based on the actual IP. Is IP? Yeah. INP, whatever it's called. The original source material. That's the word I'm thinking of. The original source material is just completely just thrown out, destroyed, and ignored for all this nonsensical bad writing, all in the name of DEI. I'm just going to say DEI. Actually, it's DIE. No, it's DIE. It's not die. Die is the other way. See, this is how little I care about this. I can't even get the initials correct. Because it's dumb. I mean, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings is epic. It is probably the greatest trilogy ever written. Okay, they're not home. I know, I keep looking out the window. I like the Hobbit series, by the way. I like the trilogy of the Hobbit. I like Peter Jackson's Hobbit. It's not great. It's definitely not the Lord of the Rings. But I still liked it. I still liked it as a movie because it didn't have all this woke nonsense and all this political nonsense and all this DEI nonsense and all this whatever else nonsense. Because they don't create characters. And the Acolyte was a fan fiction. A very strange, very odd, very almost pornographic. Erotic. I'll say erotic. I mean, I don't even know what to call it because I just found it so ridiculous. That this was actually trying to pass this off as Star Wars, which it isn't. It hasn't been Star Wars since Disney got hold of it. And I liked Rogue One, and I liked the first Star Wars, the Force Awakens. I actually liked the Force Awakens, and then it went downhill from there. But because it was even if the Force Awakens, it was obvious what Daisy Ridley's character was going to be, and I was hoping the Finn character would be the next Jedi. That would have been cool. That would have been cool and well written. But oh no, we've got to DEI it. We've got to do this, that, and the other than write a good story. I mean, I haven't seen a good movie in a long time. I just don't go to movies that much anymore because I find them boring. Most, if not all, movies with DEI in it of any percentage is generally pretty boring. Not always, but for the most part, they're not worth watching. I mean, literature, creativity, it isn't about creativity. DEI is not about creativity. It's just about being writing just well enough, but it doesn't really stink a whole lot to people who it's for. And the people it's for don't care about it anyway. The people who watch this stuff for the DEI portion really don't care. They just want the brownie points for saying they saw it and they're defending it. There's nothing to defend in the Netflix version of Lord of the Rings. It's not Tolkien. It is not even close to Tolkien. You have the elves, a multinational force of elves, and they're not. Read the Tolkien books. Orcs are evil. That's what they're there for. They are the bad guys. Sauron. I mean, he's Mr. GQ with powers. Galadriel, I'm not sure who that is, but that ain't Galadriel. Kate Blanchett is Galadriel. I mean, I wanted to like this show. I really did. I would like it to be good, but for it to be good, it has to get rid of all this DEI crap. It's got to start hiring people who know how to write a sentence, who knows how to create characters. DEI creates 99% flat, one-dimensional, if even that much, characters. When they only have one quality and you constantly harp on that one quality, you've created nothing. It's an empty shell. Well, it's an empty flat shell and without anything inside the shell. It makes paper look thick. I'm talking about one piece of paper, by the way. Not an entire roll. Yes, my Dodgers. We'll get to the playoffs and then lose. I mean, I really cannot watch a lot of these shows and take them seriously because the writing is so one-dimensional and so flatlined and so one-dimensional and so dripping with just girl bosses and Mary Sue's and DEI nonsense and characters that nobody cares about. And part of the reason people don't care about them is their stereotypes. They're paper thin creations just to check off a box. You can create a gay character and make them good, and people will like them. You can create a lesbian character, and people will like them, but create them to be likable. Create them to be more than one dimension. Their lifestyle should not be the only thing you focus on. And when you do focus only on that, you've created shit. Crap. Manure pile of nonsensical non-creativity, which is thinner than, I don't know, a piece of paper. You can create all these neat characters of different, whatever you want to call it. I'm just picking those two things because that seems to be the thing to do. They all got to be gay and they all got to be lesbian. Okay, how about make them interesting? How about make them worth caring about? How about making them worth an effort to give a about their story? I may not agree with the lifestyle, but give me something to work with here by making them worth that I like them as people. Most of the characters, they're not people. They're tropes. They're one-dimensional tick boxes. They don't have any meaning other than that one thing. And it's boring. You want to create different types of characters? Great, cool. But make sure who's ever writing them knows what they're doing, because most of these people don't. Excuse me. I mean, I just want good stories. I just want good adaptations of novels that have been written or short stories that have been written. But the Netflix Lord of the Rings is a disaster. It is not good. It is so boring and so pointlessly bad. Like, just like they've rewritten characters to be what they never were in the books. You have this material they've given you, and you've decided not to use it. This is why your show was failing. Problem with The Acolyte was it really was the writing. The writing really did not work. It was a fan fiction. It was written for a very, very, very small minority of people to like, and even those people didn't really watch it all that much. That's why your show was canceled, because it wasn't good. And nothing to do with their whatever. It had to do with the fact it was written badly. Lord of the Rings is written badly. Well, Rings of Power written badly. I need to differentiate. Because when I say Lord of the Rings, I don't want you to think Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson's was a magnificent trilogy. And I did like The Hobbit. Sorry, I know I'm in the minority on that one, but I did like the Hobbit. But most people who go to these, who watch these shows, just want good writing. They just want entertainment. They want good fantasy. They want good science fiction. They want something that resembles anything other than DEI. Because DEI doesn't create anything. It literally makes nothing. It takes a blank piece of paper, hands it back to you, and says, "Here, I've written something," and there's nothing on the paper. And but it says, "Yeah, there's something on the list blank." You didn't create anything. It's an illusion of thinking you've created anything worth watching or reading in DEI. DEI is a smokescreen. It really is a smokescreen. I mean, I get the idea behind it, but it doesn't do what it claims it's doing. It's literally doing the opposite of what it's claiming. It's not creating anything. It's destroying. It's not creating diversity. It's not creating natural diversity. Natural diversity, natural equity, and natural inclusion does happen. It happens everywhere. When people basically come to it in a natural way, but when it's forced, and it's forced in a story, people don't like it because it bores them. It's not real. People know real when they see it. But anyway. I mean, I may do another video on this subject at some point, but I don't want to go too long anyway. Up to already at 17 minutes. But, I mean, natural diversity happens. It's called writing, called fiction, it's even called nonfiction. It happens. And good storytelling demonstrates those three things without making them into something they're not. Natural diversity takes a page and creates more pages. Natural inequity, whatever it's called. I'll never get that word right, but you know what I mean. And inclusion, you give it a page. What actually happens in a natural world, it creates something. It creates pages with words on it. But when you have it, when it's forced and it's artificial and it's basically a box-ticking trope, it creates blank pages. And the person who gives you the blank page has convinced themselves there's something here when it's a blank page. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. But anyway, now we're 18 minutes. But anyway, I might try to do another video in about 30 minutes, an hour or so. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching my ramblings. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Behave yourselves, people, because you know I'm not going to. I don't know how. And I never will know how. Well, later.